Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's me, JC. I'm back again with another video with Wedge Concepts. And in this video, I'm just going to give you a few tips to help you use your credit card more properly. All right, so let's get to it. All right, thank you for stopping by my channel. I really appreciate it. And like I mentioned, we're going to talk about how to properly use a credit card. Hey, what's going on? I had to interrupt the video to let y'all know about my book, Broke Budgeting. Okay, it's on Amazon, 5 Simple Strategies. Okay, the link is going to be in the description. Make sure you pick up a copy. I have a Kindle version as well as a paperback. All right, let's get back to your video. Now, properly using a credit card is going to be a lot different than responsibly using a credit card. Okay. Now, I'm going off the assumption that you already know how to use a card responsibly. So now in this video, I'm just going to talk about more of a proper use when it comes to lenders. And if you use these tips, you can be sure not only can you improve your relationship with the lender, but that will also lead to credit limit increases and other things that go along with that. All right. And I guess just better disciplined spending habits with your card. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you use your credit card like a debit card. And what do I mean by that? Okay, so if you're going to use your credit card like a debit card, then obviously whatever you charge with your card, you want to make sure you have that money already in your account. Okay. For example, if you're going to go to Walmart and you're going to spend $200, hopefully you have at least $200 in your checking account, right? That's going to cover that charge, because what? Using your credit card is nothing but a loan, right? So you use your credit card, you're basically telling Walmart, hey, Bank of America is going to pay you and I'm going to pay Bank of America, right? Okay. So you want to, or you can treat it like a charge card, meaning that whatever's on there, you know it has to be paid in full at the end of the month. So the first tip is to use your card as if it's a debit card, only authorizing or spending enough that you have covered in your checking account. All right. So the number 2, which I already alluded to, was that you want to be able to pay it completely at the end of the month. Okay. So when you get that statement and it says that you owe $497.13, you want to be able to pay that in full. You don't want to pay the minimum balance, the $22, $25, whatever. You want to be able to pay that off at the end of the month in full. Okay. Now the third thing is going to be for emergencies. And I'm talking, true emergencies. So, someone hits your car and you have a $500 deductible and you just don't have the cash in your checking or savings. You want to swipe the card. Now, of course, you may not be able to pay that off at the end of the month, but you understand that this is a real emergency, right? The fourth thing is that there's some people who use their card as an emergency fund. Now, that's very similar to using it as an emergency, but when you use it as an emergency fund, that means that you definitely have no intentions of being able to pay this back in full at the end of the month. You're using this emergency fund, unfortunately, depending on your financial situation, where you may have to use this or dip into it once, twice, maybe even 3 times a month. Now, of course, ideally, you want to be able to pay it off, but depending on your emergency, if you don't already have an emergency fund. So let's give the ideal scenario. Okay. So clean slate. You have money in your checking. You have money in your savings. And now you have a $5,000 credit card. You can use money from your savings depending on what the issue is. But if need be, if you have to go and use your credit card, is because you just don't have enough in your savings to cover that type of emergency, right? Okay. I think we talked about that enough. Okay. The fifth thing is that you want to make sure you only use 10% of your credit card. I know everybody out here is saying that you want to use 30%, right? And 30% is a great target. But lenders like to see you use 10% or less. So keeping that in mind. So if you only have a $5,000 limit, how much can you spend a month? I'm not going to tell you. You should be able to figure it out. So you only want to use 10% or less. Now, what happens if you make a purchase with that $5,000 card, and let's say you purchase something for $1,000? As soon as you're able and capable, you want to go ahead and at least put $500 down on that credit card to pay down that debt. Or you want to go ahead and be mindful of when the closing date is. Because if you can go ahead and pay that money before it closes. So let's say you spent the $2,000 on the card, on the $5,000 credit limit, and the closing date is on the 10th. So on the 6th or 7th, you're going to pay $1,000. I'm sorry, $500. How much did we say? $2,000? You got a $5,000 card. You put 1,000, right? Yeah, let's say 1,000. And then you go ahead and you pay 500 right before the closing date. So that way, when it gets reported, you're only reporting, that usage that you have there after everything is cleared, if that makes sense. So you want to be able to use just 10%. All right. Now, there are times where, again, as we talk about emergencies, if you use your credit card and you're not able to pay it off in the first month, or maybe even the second, depending on the situation, of course, you want to be able to pay it off within 90 days for planned purchases. What do I mean by that? For example, let's say it's January and there is no pandemic and you want to take a trip to Miami for, let's say, 4 days. You're going to Miami. You look up some prices online so you know how much it's going to cost. So you got a flight, you're renting a car, you got a hotel. Those are the basics, right? Now, if you book the trip in January, you may or may not get a better deal depending on, what the situation. But let's pretend that you will get a better deal if you book it in January. It would make sense to go ahead and, if you can get a package, right? You get the flight, the hotel, and the car, one package. You pay that with the credit card. Now what you're going to do is you're going to figure out, how can I pay this in full within 90 days? That means that you won't be using this card unless you're using Velocity Banking, in which you'll be, chunking down money to pay it down and put all your money. But I'm going to do a video on Velocity Banking. If you're not familiar with Velocity Banking, go ahead and, search it, look it up. But you want to be able to plan for 90 days. The goal is that after 90 days, your balance is back down to zero. And here's a little tip for you. If you're able to do that, depending on when's the last time, your most recent, you got a new card or you had a hard inquiry, if you can take a balance and you pay it down responsibly in 90 days or less, and you have been using it properly, right? So we're going to recap. So you're able to pay it down within 90 days. You're keeping it under 10%. You're only using it for emergencies, true emergencies. You're treating your card like a debit card, which means you have the cash there. Now, after 3 months, 4 months, even 6 months, you don't even have to wait for a credit limit increase. Now, I know some people want to say, okay, well, if I wait 1 year, they'll go ahead and increase my limit. And they probably will. But you can also ask for a credit limit increase, and a lot of times they will ask you how much you want. For example, you have $5,000 on your card. You have a credit limit. You wait for 1 year, they bump it up to $7,000, $7,500. Great. But what if you call after 7 months and they say how much you want? You say, I need $10,000. They put it in. Of course, you've been responsible and using it properly. Now, guess what? You have a $10,000 credit card limit. Much better than waiting a year. You will have a hard inquiry depending on your bank. Most likely you will. But that's okay. I mean, you have to get a hard inquiry to get credit. And this extra limit is going to allow you to do more with it. So I hope this was useful. Again, there's a difference between using it properly, a credit card, and using it responsibly. Now, hopefully, you're going to be able to use it properly and responsibly, right? Okay, so you know the drill. Do me a favor. Do not click the like button. Do not subscribe. Take what you've learned, use it, apply it. Teach someone else. Start using your card as a debit card. Pay it off in full and watch how your score is impacted. And go to your lenders and see if you can get that credit limit increase. All right? Till the next time, take care and let's build together. All right.